Join us on this 5.5 mile circular kayak from Poppit Sands to Cardigan and back on the Teifi Estuary in Cardiganshire on the 28th of July 2019. If you like kayaking and are interested in the Wales coast and the Teifi River, then watch on for cinematic footage of the amazing scenery and learn about what we encountered on this route, together with practical information about kayaking the Teifi Estuary. Stick around to the end for bonus content to help you if you are interested in kayaking this route, including logistics such as parking, public transport, launch and landing locations, what equipment we used, recommendations for pubs and restaurants on the route, information about tides, currents and other safety issues, and a summary of our undertaking of kayaking the entire Wales coast. Hi, I'm Carlos, captain of the kayak crew. We are obsessed with kayaking and we are vlogging and blogging our exciting kayak journeys in which we explore the Wales coast, the River Wye, the Teifi River and other areas. If you're new here, then remember to click that subscribe button. So let's jump into the video of our kayak from Poppit to Cardigan and back on the Teifi Estuary. We launched from Poppit at about 2:45 p.m. and headed upstream with the incoming tide. We paddled up past St Dogmaels on the south bank with a collection of great pubs and a 12th century abbey. We moored our kayaks to a pontoon below the bridge and medieval castle in Cardigan. After a beer at the Grosvenor overlooking the river, we headed back downstream with the outgoing tide. Paddling through the magnificent scenery of the estuary lit up with the setting sun, we landed back at Poppit at about 7:30 p.m. Crew setting off from the mouth of the Teifi River, the Teifi Estuary, doing the pre-kayak warm-up, limbering up. It's a bit of a ceremony. So we're going to set off now. That's the mouth of the estuary over there. You can see the sea is a bit rough. That's why we changed our plans and decided to come on the river instead. Just panning round upstream. The tide is coming in, as you can see. It does come in quite rapidly up the Teifi. The current was a bit strong for us to go against. We were going to go across the Goobert, but instead we're going back upstream in the direction of Cardigan. That's the Wobley Hotel over there. It's quite a nice place to stay and a nice place to have a beer. It's a nice beer garden overlooking the estuary. And then that's my fellow kayakers down there. So we're going to follow the estuary up on the southern side, past St Dogmaels, and then Cardigan town itself. The tide is going to turn around at about 5:30. So we're going to have to come back up then with the tide coming out. Just doing a quick 360 around the estuary before we start heading upstream. That's Goobert over there on the north side of the estuary. Just catching up with the guys. You can see Kiva there has got a beer net with some cans of beer dragging behind his kayak. Just looking across to the north side of the estuary, panning around before we head upstream further. Yeah, there's lots of geese strutting around on the banks of the estuary here. Those look like grey lag geese, but there's also a lot of Canada geese over on the other side. So coming up to St Dogmaels as we head inland up the Teifi River. It's very calm, obviously, because it's basically an estuarine river, which comes in off Cardigan Bay. There seems to be lots of waders over the other side of the estuary there. Those white birds swirling around. Not sure what they are from this distance. Maybe oyster catchers. Should have brought my binoculars, really. Just panning across again to the north side of the estuary. That's Goobert over on the north side. You come Archie and Kiva, two stragglers bringing up the rear. We're about 2 miles upstream from where we launched, and St Dogmaels is coming up on the right on the south bank. So we're in St Dogmaels as we head up the Teifi in the direction of Cardigan. This is the Ferry Inn. The Ferry Inn in St Dogmaels. I've had food here before. It's got a nice beer garden. We're going to see if we can actually get out, maybe, and have a beer there. If not, then we'll carry on up to Cardigan, which is a couple of miles upstream that way. That's the boat that goes from Cardigan doing guided trips on the Teifi Estuary. So we're by the ferry in St Dogmiles. This shows quite clearly the difference in this part of the river. It seems far less tidal down here and far more stable. Whereas if you look up there, you can see the water sort of rippling a lot with the tide. Whereas when you look here, then it's very flat. There's a large group of mature ducklings there, paddling their way downstream happily on the river. So we're about 3 miles upstream from where we launched, near Poppit, and the river is narrowing here, and the tide is slowing a bit, but it's still taking us upstream. This is a great section of the river here. It's very sheltered with flat water and heavily wooded. It was a bit rougher and windier on the lower estuary, which is more exposed. You have to watch out for ducklings and ducks on the river, and also for pleasure boats going up and down. So Cardigan looms into view, and our Teifi kayak. We're going to stop off at high tide in Cardigan and then come out as the tide ebbs out of the Teifi River. So we had a bit of a stop off earlier on a bend about a mile downstream. So next stop, Cardigan Bridge. Ahead of us there you can see the brightly coloured houses of Cardigan coming into view upstream. Not far to go now. Despite the river being about 300 metres wide, Archie's managed to collide with the rear of my kayak. The tide, of course, goes in cycles of about 6 hours, and it seems to be fastest halfway between low tide and high tide. Looks like it's a race. Last one to Cardigan buys the drinks in the Grosvenor. Got some of the old buildings in the old port area of Cardigan coming up. You can see the big warehouses on the right up at the bridge there. It's hard to believe that back in the 18th and early 19th century, Cardigan was in fact the largest port in South Wales. I think they used to export a lot of agricultural produce and also slate and other industrial stuff. Obviously it declined then as a port as ships got a lot larger, and I think also because the river suffered problems with silting up. So this is a bit of a better view of the Grosvenor and the Forest River's Edge pizza place there. This is quite good because they've got like fire pits and things. We were going to dock here on the wharf. We don't know whether we will. That's Cardigan Castle there, which is a Norman castle from the Middle Ages. So we're going to start heading out probably soon because the tide is going to start going out. So we're heading back out to sea now from Cardigan, heading downstream. We had a drink in the Grosvenor pub, which overlooks the river in the middle of town. So we're sort of following the tide out now, downstream. There's a lot of boats moored up in the River Teifi, as usual. So the sun is setting slowly in the west, and we're going to be in Poppit Sands hopefully in the next hour or so. The point here illustrates the bend in the River Teifi, which is just before Cardigan town. It's about a mile downstream from Cardigan, and there's a big, basically curve in the river, which then leads down into Cardigan town itself, which is upstream up that way. Heading downstream, this section seems rougher than it was when we came up. I think the wind must have picked up a little bit. Just looking back upstream for a last look at Cardigan, and then downstream towards St Dogmiles on the south bank on the left. Yeah, the wind has picked up definitely. It's amazing how quickly conditions can change. That's the ferry in at St Dogmiles over on the left. St Dogmiles is about a mile downstream from Cardigan. It's about 6 p.m. now, and the sun is slowly starting to set over in the west. There's loads of boats moored up on the river. Just need to weave between them. Strangely though, we haven't actually passed that many boats moving up and down the river itself. We're passing St Dogmiles again on the way downstream. St Dogmiles is a great village with a medieval abbey and, perhaps more importantly, a few great pubs. A final look upstream towards St Dogmiles. Looking downstream, you can see the mouth of the estuary in the distance. We're about 2 miles downstream from Cardigan now. There's about 1.5 miles left till we get to the end near Poppit. That's Goobert over there on the north side of the estuary. That's looking back down towards St Dogmiles as we head out to sea on the Teifi on a Sunday evening. There's a lot of bird life back and forth the estuary. The sea is quite calm. Well, I say sea, it's actually technically a river. So the tide is going out. It's about an hour after high tide, so there's still a lot of water on the estuary. So we're going to head back now to Poppit Sands, which is on the southern side of the estuary to my left. On the right hand side, which is the northern side of the estuary, is Goobert. The estuary is about a mile or so wide here. It's almost 2 hours after high tide, but there's still a lot of water in the estuary. Give it another 2 hours or so and the water will recede, exposing a lot more sandbanks. It's the final push. The guys have already landed on the bank over there on the left. The estuary looks stunning, bathed in sunlight as the sun sets. It's about 7:30 and we're back at Poppit where we launched. What a great kayak. Since this was a circular kayak, there is not much to say about logistics. There is a large car park at Poppit Sands, which is a paying display car park. It costs £5 to park there all day. We had to carry our inflatable kayaks a few hundred metres from the car park to the foreshore. An alternative launch spot is the beach at Poppit Sands, although you then have to paddle around into the mouth of the estuary, so it's about half a mile longer to kayak. If you did want to get a bus, then the 405 bus service between Cardigan and Poppit is called the Poppit Rocket. In the summer, the Poppit Rocket runs Monday to Saturday, but the rest of the year it only runs on Thursdays. These are just some of the good pubs and restaurants along this route. The Grosvenor in Cardigan is a nice pub in a Grand Georgian building overlooking the river just below Cardigan Bridge. Pizza Teepee in Cardigan, as the name suggests, specialises in pizzas. It's got a great location right down by the riverside below the bridge. The venue is semi-open air since it's comprised of a number of outdoor tables and booths, although most of these are now semi-enclosed. The Teifi Waterside Hotel at Poppit is another great place with a great location right beside the estuary. I recall having food here some years ago and it was good. The ferry inn at St Dogmiles is a great location in the quaint village of St Dogmiles, right on the water's edge. It seems to market itself as a gastropub. I did have food here some years ago and recall it being good, although it's not the cheapest. Regarding the equipment used, we did this kayak in July 2019 when we were still all using the Pro Aqua inflatable kayaks. The Pro Aqua kayaks were sold by Class Olson, but they have since been discontinued for a while, we believe. They are made from a traditional construction technique for inflatable kayaks using PVC tubular sides. There is a separate floor chamber for the Pro Aqua kayaks, which is inserted at the base of the cockpit. The Pro Aqua kayaks were our workhorse between July 2016, when we started kayaking, until late 2021, when we started to finally progress to full drop stitch kayaks, and also to hybrid kayaks with drop stitch floors. We're doing a separate video regarding our progression to hybrid and full drop stitch kayaks. Regarding the Teifi River generally, the Teifi is the main river on Cardigan Bay, flowing from its source in the Cambrian Mountains all the way to its mouth downstream from Cardigan. As of the date of doing this video, we have kayaked the sections from Poppit and Goobert at the mouth of the river up to Cardigan, and we've also kayaked the section from Kayak down to Cardigan. These are shown on this map. We have not yet kayaked any sections above Kayak, certainly from Kayak to its mouth. It's a pleasant river to paddle. From Kayak to Kilgarran, the river starts initially quite fast flowing, with a few shallower sections. The Teifi seems to be tidal downstream from Kilgarran, from which point the river starts to develop a more estuarine feel to it. Regarding issues or dangers, like any estuary, the Teifi is very tidal, and the tide is the paramount factor when planning a kayak on it. If you launch from Poppit about 2 to 3 hours before high tide, then you should get to Cardigan a little before high tide, which means you've then got time to come back downstream to Poppit with the outgoing tide. We have found that the wider and more open water at the opening of the estuary is more choppy than the more sheltered section of the estuary upstream from the mouth of the river. Another point is that if you look on Google Maps, you will see that the course of the channel as it flows up the estuary, and you will also see where the sandbanks are. It is advisable to stay within this channel. On a later kayak a couple of years later, I didn't stay in the channel, and after passing the bar at the mouth of the estuary, I soon found that my skeg started to bottom out on the sandbanks on the north side of the estuary. The kayak crew were in the process of kayaking every section of the 870 miles or so of the Wales coast. The Teifi Estuary is technically part of the West Wales coast, and the Wales coastal path runs around the estuary, as shown in this map. We are covering the coast in journeys of between about 5 miles and 12 miles. Our video of each section of the Wales coast we kayak is uploaded to our YouTube channel under the Wales Coast playlist. We are also uploading a blog post for each section of the coast that we kayak to our website, kayakcrew.co.uk. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions or comments, then let us know by commenting below. If you liked the video, then please give it a thumbs up. If you want to subscribe to get updates on our new content, then please click the subscribe button on the left below. Click on the right below to be taken to the playlist of our videos of our other kayaks around the Wales coast. Happy paddling from the Kayak crew.